I'm glad you decided to come out this evening, and what we have this evening is a demonstration on how the town of Nashville bills its water, sewer, garbage, and recycling. And the big components of your bill every month, obviously, are the water and the sewer. So what we have prepared is just a short PowerPoint. Start with some quick facts on our system, and then we'll go into a comparison of if we bill in 1,000-gallon increments, which is what we do now, versus 100-gallon increments. How will that look each month on your bill, and show you that. And then we have a summary of some tips for conserving water and things to look for. We also brought some of our water meters, our water meter reading equipment, so you can touch and see and feel that. The guys will give you some tips on if you want to take readings off your own water meter, how you can open the lid and use a flashlight and get the readings off your meter and keep track of it that way too. So to get started, I thought we'd start out with just some quick facts about Nashville's water and sewer system. And there should be a one-page sheet on all this. We have 2,820. Are you not getting it? That's better. We have 2,824 water customers. Residential make up about 83% of those, and then commercial, industrial, and institution 11%, and then 6% of the meters are for irrigation. A number of people irrigate, and some of the business and industry too. The advantage of having an irrigation meter is there's no sewer charge on it. It's just water. Obviously, when you water the grass, it doesn't go down the sewer, so there's no need for sewer charges on it. How those stack out in town, about 95% of our customers are in town, 5% are out. Our daily water consumption for the town, average daily water consumption, is about 700,000 gallons a day. That's about 21 million gallons a month, or 252 million gallons a year. On the sewer side of things, we have a few less sewer users than we do water customers. There's 2,486 water customers, and how that breaks down percentage-wise, 90% are residential, 10% are commercial, industrial, and institutional, and 99% of those are in town and 1% out of town. So, yeah.
How do we have less sewer and with more water? How are they not using the sewer?
Well, a number of customers, especially those outside of town, have their own septic systems. And there still are septic systems operable. I mean, we have two subdivisions that we don't have a sewer system that they can hook up to. So there's about 68 homes in those two subdivisions that are on their own private septic. So, good question. Yeah. Our water system, it consists of, we have a 16-inch connection with Rocky Mount. We buy most of our water from the city of Rocky Mount, and there's a metering station that's out by the John Deere dealer on the east side of town. We have a total of 7 wells, but only 3 are ones that we use. The others have poor quality water, or they don't produce enough to make it worthwhile to even try and pull water from them. And we produce about 20% of our own water that we put in the system. The remaining 80% is purchased from the city of Rocky Mount. We have 2 elevated water towers. The east one is over by Clayton Homes, and that's 300,000 gallons in capacity. The west one is out by ACDEI and Atlantic Natural Foods on the west side of town, and that's the bigger one. It's 500,000. We have approximately 277 feet of water main and water line, and they range in size from 2-inch in diameter up to 16. And they range in age from some that have just been installed to over 100 years. We have 330 fire hydrants, 850 valves, to the best of our knowledge. Now, there's some valves out there that have never showed up on the map, but they're out there. We're doing an asset inventory assessment right now. When we get finished with that, we will have an accurate count of all those. And we have one water booster pump station that's out on Highway 58 toward Castalia, and we sell water to Nash County and that Universal Leaf Water Tower out west of town. They buy their water from the town of Nashville, and that water booster pump station fills that tower. So the FY22 operating budget for the water system was $1.2 million, $295,000 for capital improvements. On the sewer side of things, we have an 18-inch sewer connection with a metering station with the city of Rocky Mount, and that's on Old Carriage Road, right alongside Stony Creek. If you guys have ever been by there, you may have noticed that it's not real prominent, but it's there. We have 36,960 feet of gravity flow sewer line, and it ranges in size from 4-inch to 18-inch. And it ranges in age, again, from newly constructed to over 120 years. There's 660 manholes, and they have that range from newly constructed to being really old. 12 lift stations, 1,830 feet of a pressure sewer main. And then our operating budget for the current year on the sewer is $2.5 million, $784,000 for capital improvements. So
That's something like those improvements, how does that come about? Is that something voted on, is that something that just worked into the budget? And what, like that $784,000, what's that gonna actually do for the year?
sure. Well, part of that, 335,000 of that is the asset inventory assessment that we have going on right now. We tried unsuccessfully for 2 years to get a grant. The state of North Carolina has a grant that helps smaller towns conduct asset inventory assessments, and that's when you hire an engineer and you go out and actually physically examine the physical condition of your water and sewer, your water valves, your fire hydrants, your manholes. You take a look in the sewer lines, and based upon that, then they come up with an overall assessment, and that will help us determine what in our system we need to budget money for replacement. Lee?
The air gets in the line if a fire hydrant is open or flushing is probably the most common reason. Excuse me. So if we're doing routine flushing or the fire department is testing fire hydrants and they open the system, as it closes, a little bit of air may enter the line and show itself. Right.
It's called turbidity. We do have some wells that we don't use anymore that were high in turbidity, and in fact the one on Lucille Street, which isn't far from your house, James, is one that we don't use anymore because of that. When we put it online, we got complaints of this milky colored water. But from time to time we get that. Well number 6, which is out in Birchwood, its pump after 20 years gave out. We put the same size pump back in the well, and it sucked air. The new pump was so much more efficient pumping water, it pulled the water level down to the point where it was now sucking air. So we had to re-permit that well. We had to put in a smaller pump. And it took about 8 months to get all that accomplished, but now, we have that well back online, and we're getting good quality water out of it again. Yes?
The other wells that aren't working, is there any chance that we're gonna do any kind of improvements or anything on them to get more of a percentage from Nashville water instead of pulling so much percentage from Rocky
Yeah.
Mount?
Well, well number 4, which is by the East Water Tower, the cost of rehabbing that and the volume of water we're pulling from that, it just doesn't make any sense to do that. Well number 3 that's by the old school on the south side of town, and that one was taken offline years ago. And again, that's one to rehab that, to recase it, line it, put in a new pump for the volume of water we're going to get out of it. And that one was one that had water quality issues too, if I recall. Probably our best bet is to look at siting and drilling an additional well in the future, which we have an opportunity to do. And we'll go into that a little later. If you guys are ready to move on, John has a bill. The other handout that you have there is a kind of a demonstration. It is a demonstration of how your water, sewer, garbage, and recycling bill is calculated. And we have a comparison between how we bill now in 1,000-gallon increments. We could also bill in 100-gallon increments. We've discovered from our meter salesperson representative and our billing software that we cannot bill down to by the gallon usage. 100-gallon is the lowest quantity increment that we can bill in. So, John, if you would. Not down to the per gallon usage. Yeah, it won't.
This is mainly to show how the rollover kind of operates.
Sorry, I do have a question. She was talking about the software. Did you know that when you purchased the software? Was there any other software that could have gone down?
So when I spoke with our meter representative, he informed me that he's, in his 40 years of up and down the East Coast, he's never seen a software that can bill to the gallon. Meters weren't designed to provide they started out as an analog system, so there was never a way to capture a to the gallon reading, because there's a chance that, every little bit it's gonna advance, and you can read it now, and then by the time you calculate it, it'll be different.
So do you also, I know we're gonna go through this demonstration, but what are other cities doing? Are they billing to the hundreds of gallons or thousands?
I think John's got that in his presentation.
Okay, so January, just to start off, this is, yes, sir.
Our Neptune meters are tested out of the factory at, I think, 99% to 103% accurate. The meters in the ground, I would say, are similar.
I think the age of the meter matters, but
The age of the meter matters a little bit, but we choose Neptune because of their longevity, their efficiency to withstand the volume of water that passes through them. So they're not wearing out as as rapid as other meters may.
You can get a test, like we had a test, let them, if you wanted to do that 90-day test for him, just to.
Yeah, we could, and we could follow up with individual questions as far as the technical, the maintenance, the reading aspect when these guys finish up, and we could show you some things here, and we could discuss those questions as a group, and then of course we can do a little bit more hands-on with the meter and the register themselves.
all right. So on the street, January, say you move in January 1st to start getting on water, and you use exactly 2,654 gallons of water. We get that reading from the radio reads. We import it into our system, and then the system averages down to the lowest, the next 1,000 gallons. So in this case, it would be 2,000 gallons of billing usage. Line 4. And then in our rates, there is a billing allowance of 1,000 gallons, a use it or lose it allowance of 1,000 gallons, and that is line 5. And so the variable usage is just the billing usage minus the billing allowance, so in this case, 1,000. And so you're billed at the base rate plus $1,000 1,000 gallons in variable usage. So your base rate of water is $19. The variable usage is $4.50. The sewer is $29. The sewer variable is $13, and the garbage and recycling together is $26.50. The garbage is $21, and the recycling is $5.50. And a 2,000 gallon usage bill is $92. And then, so if we were to bill by hundreds, it would be, again, the same usage of 2654. That would that would round down to the nearest hundreds, which in this case would be 2600. It would have the same billing allowance, so then we would have a variable usage of 1600 as opposed to 1000. So your flat charges of your base rate of water, sewer, and garbage and recycling, that would stay the same at that 7450. However, you would be billed for 1,600 gallons for water and sewer. So that is, instead of multiplying 4.5 times 1, it's now multiplying it by 1.6. So it results in a higher bill if we were to bill by hundreds than thousands in that case. And now, if you look at line 7, there's a rollover of what was unbilled of 654, and that is comprised of the true usage of that month was 2,654, but the billed usage was 2,000, so that leaves that 654. And then the next month, in this case February, the user used 2,732, and now we also have to account for last month's rollover, which was in this example 654, which then comes up to a usage and rollover amount of 3,386. And so the system will round that down to the nearest thousand, in this case 3, which is line 4. And then in line 5, again, we take away the allowance, and then in line 6, that is the variable usage. So in this case, it's 19 for water, $9 in a water variable, which is just 2 times 4.5. Sewer, $29. Sewer variable, $26. Garbage and recycling, $109.50. And in the same for February, in February's rollover, we were to bill by hundreds, only 54 would be the rollover. So the usage is the same, 2732, plus line 2, which is the rollover, to equate to line 3, which is 2786. And so the system would then round down to the nearest hundred, 2700, line 4, then line 5, taking into account the allowance. Line 6 is the variable usage that needs to be billed out. And as you can see on the right side, 104.25. So that bill was lower.
Can I ask you a question? How is it rated when you're using the irrigation? What is the rating?
650. 650. 650 variable bulk water rate for the irrigation meters. There's no flat fee on the irrigation meters, nor is there a sewer fee.
So the usage is by gallons?
That is, say you just set up your meter and it was April, and April you don't use anything, May you use 300, June you use 300, you don't get a bill for either of those 2 months, but then say in July you use 500, then you would get a bill for that 1,000-gallon usage. And then you would have 100 in a carryover balance, basically.
So if you use, let's say, if you use an average of 1,500 gallons per month, watering is our sprinkler system. What would that be?
So for the first month, you would get billed for 1,000, and you would have that 500-gallon rollover. And so you're basically starting that next month at a starting usage of 500. And if you use, in your example, 1,500 again, 500 plus 1,500 is 2,000, so you would be billed for 2,000 gallons that month. Yes, sir.
Concern for me is, a few months back, the water bill was like $51 flat fee.
Mm-hmm.
Then you went from $51 to 70-something.
Yes, sir.
That is my concern, because you might not use it. For instance, I haven't moved in the house yet, but I'm being charged for water, and I'm being charged for flat fee.
Mm-hmm.
Flat fee is, whether I use anything, is always going to, I have to pay that flat fee.
Mm-hmm.
My other concern is, if you don't pay your water bill by a certain date, you got a fee of $50. So I want to know why you're charging $50.
Okay, so for the flat fee availability fee, that is just to, basically, it costs a fixed charge, and we estimated it to be $19 for water and $29 for sewer. It costs that charge to have the opportunity to provide services to that location. And in terms of the late fees, the bills are sent out the first business day of the month. They're due by the 18th every single month. Then there's a 5% fee if they're not paid by the 18th. And then that $50 comes, 5% of the outstanding balance.
So you charge 5%, you didn't pay in one day, you're charging $50. If you don't pay in one day.
I'm getting that, sir. I was getting that, sir. There's a 5% late fee assessed after the 18th, which is the due date. And then on the 28th, that is the $50 non-pay fee. And then we are going to turn off services for non-payment. And now, if you have a year-long history of you always pay on time and something just happened, we're happy to waive that fee for a one-time waive. But that is to ensure a high collection rate, so we're in essence not losing more money than we should be by not collecting on revenues.
I understand what you're saying, but still, why did it go from $50 to $70?
Because
That's the large increase rate.
I agree, sir. So for fiscal year 19, 20, and 21, the water sewer fund lost almost $2 million in operating, just because in operating. We were not charging enough in prior years.
I understand, so you pass the cost on to your customers. I understand somebody got paid.
Bec-
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying, to me, to increase $20.
if we would not have,
You haven't even turned the faucet on.
pardon?
I'm trying to understand it. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Because there's a,
I realize we got to pay for water, don't get me wrong.
mhm.
But what my mind had to comprehend is a $20 increase. And I might not have turned my water on the whole month.
That's two separate questions. So the $20 increase, if we would have not changed the rates and kept the same rates as last year, the water fund would have become insolvent this year, which means there would be negative fund balance, and then the general fund would have had to transfer money to the water sewer fund to keep it in operation, which is enterprise funds like the water sewer fund are supposed to be self-sustaining.
What you're saying is the amount of money that you're paying to buy water.
Mhm.
What you're saying?
To buy water, pay for sewage treatment, to maintain the infrastructure, all of those items.
How much did Rocky Mount increase their cost for us?
So it was mainly the sewer surcharge. Because our infrastructure is old, when it rains heavily, all that water goes into the sewer. And even though it was not used to a customer, we still have to pay Rocky Mount to treat that. And so at the end of last year, we were paying roughly $50,000 to $60,000 a month on top of our normal usage bills in what our sewer surcharges bill, and in addition to that, it was like roughly 10 million gallons more than what we were billing to customers for sewage treatment, and that was mainly from just infiltration into the system. And that's why we're doing that inventory assessment, to locate the places where, hey, a lot of this is seeping into it. It's going to be an upfront cost to fix this, but that will alleviate the excess cost that you have to pay for sewage treatment because of rainwater and other items like that.
So have you reached the peak of your charges now?
The things, as everyone knows, things always get more expensive because, like chlorine, that went from, what did you say it was, Lee? Like $1.50 to
$1.50 to just over $2.
$1.50 to just over $2. So as these things get more expensive over time,
So over time, I can look forward to an increase in my water bill.
that's very likely.
And it's more than water. It's the water, it's the sewer, the garbage, the recycling.
Hmm.
I realize that.
And we
Do you make a decision of what you're going to charge? Who makes that decision for the increase?
ultimately it's approved by the board. I'm sorry, the council.
Right. And do you send out notice to inform the customers of Nashville of what you're going to be doing?
There's public notices.
They all come.
Hmm.
How? By mail or how?
Newspaper, we typically put a note in the utility bill itself, similar to tonight.
You can put it on the bill.
Yeah, similar to how we advertise this tonight. We'll have it on the note section in the bill.
And then, once you put it on the bill,
Hmm.
I can come to the town council and see what you're doing as far as the increase.
Yeah, yeah. And also, and another example, we got the GFL, we contract for them for recycling services, and their contract just went up 8%. And that's beyond our control. There's nothing we can really do about that.
Not gay.
Yeah, and gas,
Nothing
gas,
you can really do about it.
yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I know it hasn't been recently when we're having problems with the mailing, but it's gotten a lot better. But what happens when the due date comes on holiday weekend on the 18th?
If the holiday weekend's on the 18th, it's just the next business day.
I mean, will we get charged another fee for those? 'Cause
No.
the way the mail was run, it's come a lot better. We were having a lot of times when we were getting the bills a day or two before due date.
Mhm.
It's gotten a lot better. I'm just wondering what happens when the due date on the 18th falls on a due date.
It's the next business day. But also, and this is hopefully people watching this as well, feel free to contact us in any way to sign up for e-billing. You'll get an email the first business day of the month of here's your bill. You won't have to worry about getting it in the mail.
With that, if you sign up for e-billing, are you gonna still charge if you wanna pay online?
That is a third party that's a third party fee that we have no control over. You're able to drop a check in the Dropbox on by Town Hall, but to pay online, that is not a fee assessed by us, but by the collection agency. You had your, yes, sir?
Infiltration to the sewer system, is that through the manhole covers, broken lines, underground,
Mhm.
seepage, whatever?
I defer to what Taylor and Lee say, but to my knowledge, yes, and I'm sure there's a million other things. I'm not an expert on the actual system itself, but he's shaking his head, yes, that's exactly, mainly what it is.
One more question. Meters are read on the 15th of the month,
Yes,
and the bills are sent out when?
the first business day of the month.
Okay, so that would be the first, so for March, bills were read March 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Bills were sent, or will be sent
April
April
1,
1st.
yes.
They're due April 18th.
Yes, so they're reading the 15th, so they're reading the usage between February 15th and March 15th.
I was just trying to clarify the timeline.
Mhm.
You said it's read on the 15th, due on the 18th.
I understand how they're, thank you for that question to make it more clear. Yes, sir.
So what happens if I read my meter, and then when I get my bill, there is a different amount of usage? So do I pay that bill, or do I call the town and say, perhaps there has been error? How do you?
If you believe there's an error, give us a call. We'll get the accurate number if there's an issue. And if you think there's a leak, we can run a data log to check to see if there's the wrong use. Basically, if there's a leak, there's going to be constant usage, so we'll be able to see, like, hey, you do have a leak somewhere, and hopefully be able to address that issue. But to continue on to this, so we're at February. So January's bill, it would have been $10.50 more expensive if we billed by hundreds rather than thousands. February's, it would have been $5.25 cheaper if we would have billed by hundreds rather than thousands. I'm happy to run through all 12, or we can skip to the bottom. Is there a skip to the bottom? Okay, so if you go to page 3, the total bill, if we were to bill, the total bill for those 12 months, if we were to bill by thousands, if we were to bill by thousands, it would be $1,244. And if we were to bill using the same usage amounts, if we were to bill by hundreds, it would be $1,249.25, which would have been $5.25 more expensive. Yeah. For a full year difference, it would have, if we were to bill by hundreds, it would have been $5 more expensive to the end user than by thousands. And again, that's just a snapshot. The next month, it may be cheaper to bill by hundreds, but overall, the customer is putting out less money up front if billed by thousands than hundreds. Any questions on that?
I do have one.
Yes.
How much has non-payment from persons in the past affected the way, the cost of how you had to charge for the water? Is it, I know it's a
Mhm. So our total, and this is encompassing 30 years of stuff. Our total AR is to 30 years, roughly about as good as you're going to get. Yes, sir.
Basically, at this point in time, are you getting all your water from Rocky Mountain?
We are, as we showed on the quick facts, we get about 80% of our water from Rocky Mountain.
In the future, it's going to continue to be it?
We are trying to get more wells online and whatnot, but in the near future, we are looking at getting more wells to obviously, it's because it's obviously cheaper for us to produce our own water than buy it, so we are attempting to do that.
Kind of time frame.
What time?
Well, we're gonna have an opportunity with a new subdivision on the north side of town to have a future well site. So in this coming fiscal year, we're gonna be budgeting some money, around $15,000 to sink a test well out there. You never know when you put a well in the ground if it's gonna be good quality water, how much it's gonna yield. So before you spend all the money to, case it, put piping into it, build the well house and put in the treatment equipment, you wanna make sure that it's a good producing well. And, here in eastern North Carolina, if you drill a 6-inch well and you can get 200 gallons a minute of water out of it, it's a good well. But having said that, using 700,000 gallons of water a day, we probably need 15 to 20 wells in order to be self-sufficient on the water. And Rocky Mountain doesn't get their water from wells, they pull it from the Tar River. And they have a huge water treatment plant that cleans it all up, chlorinates it, and then they put it into their system.
Randy, to clarify, usually we also have a contract with Rocky.
Yeah, on the water end of things, we just renewed our water purchase contract with the city of Rocky Mount in December of 2001. And the first one was for 40 years. This one has a term of 40 years also. What we have to pay for the water isn't necessarily specified in that contract. It's based upon their cost to provide water to us.
Is there a point where it's like the percentage, is there a percentage maxed out anywhere, or can they just keep continuing to raise it? Is there any percentage in that contract?
There isn't in that contract, and I doubt if they would be willing to put that language in there, not knowing what costs potentially in the future could be. It'd be nice on our end if we could limit it somehow.
And also, it's the same issue with sewage, and that's a larger component of most people's bills. And we would have to, a sewage treatment plant would be probably about $50 million, and for 2,500 people, it's just, at that size, we were essentially at the mercy of the larger sewage treatments.
Randy, you might want to share with them how much it costs us to dig new wells around about there. I think you just mentioned how much it would be for us to do the new sewage treatment plant.
I think each well, after you do the $15,000 testing, make sure it's a good well. I think it would be $400,000 per well. I think that's the yeah.
350 to 400,000.
Is there any other way to get water besides wells here around?
Well, we could do what Rocky Mount does, and that's draft water from Stony Creek. That idea has been floated out there before, to build a water treatment plant capable of treating surface water. I would not have any idea what that would cost.
Is there any way to get, any of those, costs, through the, new act that was passed providing for
The American Rescue Plan Act.
yeah.
There is, that funding would come through the state of North Carolina, and North Carolina for many years has tried to push towns into regional water and regional sewage treatment because it's more cost effective for the ratepayers in the long run than each town having their own individual sewer treatment plant or water plant.
Yeah, but it's not good if one entity is controlling everything, every pool resources, I can see that makes sense. But if you only have one entity controlling everything, then that doesn't make sense for the town of Nashville overall. Because they can
we've been fortunate with our contract with Rocky Mount that they charge us the same rate. They charge Whitaker, Sharpsburg, Battleburg, any of the towns that get water or send sewer, they're all billed at the same cost, the same rate. And, you know, it's a wholesale rate, so in some cases, it's even less than what their own citizens are paying, because it's a wholesale rate.
The water from our 3 wells, active wells, how is that treated?
Excuse me. The water that we treat from our wells is treated with chlorine and ammonia.
So it's not a treatment plant, it's just that it's pumped from the wells?
Correct. It's directly injected into the line that's going into the distribution system.
So when I look at your average usage according to the water industry, so it indicates that there are approximately 4,000 gallons per month for residential use. So if that is the case, and all things being equal, approximately what does that cost at 4,000 gallons? This says, of course, average usage. So if we were to plug in your numbers.
127.
How much
127.
per month?
Yes, for water, sewer, and garbage, and recycling.
I'd love to have $127 for that. I'd be willing to do that to happen.
That's just water and sewer, now you got that garbage.
No, that was the full. Did-
I mean, my only question, just listening to him, it sounds like there are people in town, I mean, it's just the two of us.
Mhm.
You know, we just moved here a little over a year ago, and we kind of know how much water we use. And when I hear of other people, like a friend of mine has her elderly mother that lives in her home, but I've heard what happened on their side. But I don't understand how maybe somebody on the other side of town that it's either one or two people in their house, why their water bills are so, and they don't find the leak, if it's being read, like what's going on that some people's are just way out of whack?
Again, that 4,000 is a Googled figure of rough estimates. That doesn't mean like someone may use 2,000 gallons a month, but someone who likes to wash every day, run the dishwasher every day, take hour-long showers, their usage could be 12,000 gallons a month. There is a pretty big standard deviation in that 4,000 figure.
One of the things that we discovered, you know, kind of researching for the presentation, online there's lots of water calculators of varying degrees, so you can type in your personal consumption. It's going to give you a lot of averages. But within that, it said that the majority of people, they use, it was over 50% more than they think they do on a national average. So, you know, we think one thing, but the reality is what that meter reading is what we're consuming.
Yeah. We have a house and it doesn't use any water because nobody's living there. And, you know, the bill is $8 a month and there's no use of water at all.
Your bill is probably $74.50, and that is the base fees added together.
Is that the base fee?
Right.
Yes, sir.
The other day I had a friend, and I know his water bill for January, and I heard the water bill for February.
Uh-huh.
On January 14th, they said they made a bill, and it was one unit. And it was $50-something, which would be the sewage plus $20.
He may not have garbage. Yeah, so about $50.
Yeah, he doesn't have sewage, because he has a septic tank.
Okay, so then it would be 19 and then 26.50.
Okay, the next month, in February, they made a bill on February 15th, and his bill was $127, but it still said one unit used. And the other thing is that the man, half the time, he's not even at home. And they told him to check his water a month or so before that, and they never found any leaks or anything else. So how do you explain that?
Did we have? I don't know the specific case, and I'm happy to talk to you after that. Based on what you say, I would need to look at the specific account to determine.
I look at the bill like you should look at the bill, and
Well-
if I see one unit and it's saying X amount of dollars, and I see it on one month, and then the next month, and it says one unit.
I would have to verify on the bill that,
Not all city sewer. But how can it be $30-something difference?
I think if he wants to bring the bills down to town hall, we could definitely do a field investigation based on, to corroborate with what the finance office is saying.
You stayed by yourself, so it ain't like you trying to keep people in the house.
What's your average water bill?
Well, one month is like 94, the next month is like 120.
Yeah, ours
You really close the water every day. I
Yeah.
you weigh yourself.
I don't know how I use it.
I mean, ours fluctuates too, it's like, but I never.
But I
been over
understand,
like
you know, if I
120.
go 1 gallon.
yeah, 127, that would be
I've never
4,000
been
gallons.
over that,
Yeah,
except I watered our grass a little bit last year,
That's what they'll get you in trouble in the summer. You don't have irrigation.
well, that's what
Right.
he explained it, can you guys
There's a
explain,
there's a slide.
is that a topic, but that's, I'd like to.
yeah. All right, so again, average usage, there's a huge standard deviation in that figure. That's just the natural average. It's, if your utility bill seems high, it's most likely it's caused by one of these, and there's a million different other things that could make it higher than average. If one month you use 2,000 gallons and the next month you use 18,000 gallons, please call down to town hall, and what we'll do is we will run a data log to make sure that there's not a leak. The data logs come back, they look something like this, and then it will also spell out like the hour by hour usage. And if there's a constant flow of something, probably means there's a leak or something, or something similar. Any questions on that? We're good? All right. These are just something I found online, average daily usages of common household items.
And that can deviate.
Again, yes, if you flush the toilet 20 times, it's going to be different. But this is about 4,000 gallons a month of daily usage. But again, there's tons of different personal actions that factor into it. All right, so here is the water charges for Bailey, Lewisburg, Nash County, Nashville, Sharpsburg, and then the school of government puts out a thing where you can compare 25 miles, 100 miles, 50 miles, all of NC together. And here's what it is if it's base fees of no usage, 1,000 gallons usage, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. As you can see, Nashville, our water is pretty low. Off the top of my head, no, but I'm happy to get, yeah.
And then I always see,
It's lower than us, but they produce their own water, so they,
and I know Wilson's a different county, but I always see them on Nextdoor, and they're all like, you know, they'll sit there and make comments about how their water is really, really high.
Do they get theirs from us?
no, Wilson produces their own. Wilson has their own.
Wilson, I think Wilson produces them and it also pulls off the Buckhorn Lake. Pulls off Buckhorn.
And Wilson also has a tap on to the Tar River. That was put in back in 75 during the water shortage.
And also, when you look at Rocky Mountain, they bill by the cubic foot rather than the 1,000 gallons, so you have to multiply it for, I think it's 753. There's a conversion, but you can Google that, I'm sure. All right. Sewer, as you can see, same places. And and then all together is that. So around the area, we're kind of at the midpoint when you factor in water and sewer together. This particular region of North Carolina, when you compare it to other regions, it's just generally higher. I don't know. Any questions on this?
When did the water bill started going up?
I believe July, correct?
July this past year,
July 2021, yes.
and why you say it went up so high?
Because the water fund was losing, the water and sewer fund was losing a large amount of money and would have become insolvent shortly thereafter if rates were not changed.
So that fund, where was that coming from?
That is revenue from water and sewer charges, and the expenses are the purchase of water, distribution of that water, operations of maintaining that water, and as well as sewer, purchase of the sewer, purchase of the sewage treatment, operations of the sewer, maintaining the lines, and various other things.
Yeah, prior to the,
In the spring of 2021, I guess there was a lot of rain in Nashville, and the sewer surcharge bill that Rocky Mount sent out, it was about $10 million a month in sewer charges that we were receiving from Rocky Mount that weren't being billed out, and since that was mainly just the infiltration into the system, we still had to pay it, but we couldn't charge it to. Since there's no rightful owner of it, you can't build the environment basically, but the town ultimately had to pay it. And when you use that much water, Rocky Mount will they'll charge a surcharge on that usage, so that bumped the bill up even higher. Yes, sir.
I know that we received a grant. When will the future use for seeing some improvement in the aging of the sewer and the other lines?
I believe you're talking about the American Rescue Plan. We are doing the inventory assessment plan, and what they recommend we will be doing. What is the timeline for when they?
well, we have an application to the state wastewater reserve, and we're gonna start with the big sewer line that takes our sewage from town to Old Carriage Road. When we had that assessed, it was discovered that we have infiltration on that line of about 250 gallons a minute, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you do the math on it, it quickly comes up to over 1 million gallons of additional flow per month. So our application is going to go in. We should know by August if we get funded on that. Then we can have our engineer design the project. We can let bid on it and hopefully be under construction on a repair or rehab for that line by the 1st of next year.
Is there any planning for growth in Nashville and water use? Is there any plans on how water usage is gonna grow with the growth in Nashville?
There is. We have in our comprehensive plan that we just adopted here this last year, it's our plan for how our town's going to grow. The council has approved a couple new subdivisions, and as those houses get built and put online, they will be using more water. The nice thing about that is we'll have more customers paying, so that should help us keep our rates as low as we can keep them. Now, understand, we set our rates to recover our costs. So we're not like an investor-owned utility such as Duke Energy. You know, they set their rates based upon what their costs are, their investment, and, you know, for future upgrades. Plus, then they have to give their investors a return on their money. A municipal system like ours doesn't have to do that. All we have to do is charge enough to cover our costs and maintain our infrastructure, our capital improvements over time. So the rates that the town of Nashville has, they are structured to bring in enough money to cover the cost and put monies away so that we can make the future improvements that we need to make. Nobody's getting profit on it.
Yeah, but I'm thinking with those new subdivisions coming in, you have more water. Does that mean that the rates are going up because you're using more water right now?
The charge would be split amongst a greater number of people, so that would, after a certain point that may hit a bottleneck, the rate that we're growing, it will not hit that bottleneck. Jeez, I'm trying to think of what that exact number is, but at some point, yes, we would probably have to build more wells, or Rocky might charge a different rate, but it's not a difference between 2,000 customers and 3,000 customers and 4,000 customers. It's more like if we had 10 to 15, and at that point, the sewage treatment plant might be a reasonable option. So basically, the bigger you grow, the better it probably will be.
That plan that you were talking about, is that online?
It is, yes. On our website, you can find a link to the Nashville Comprehensive Plan. And there's a lot of good information in there on housing and demographics, in addition to what the town's mission and goals and objectives are for the next 5 to 7 years.
Did you have, citizen input to that plan?
We sure did, yeah. We had a lot of good input in this very room, as a matter of fact. We had 2 or 3 events where the public could come in and go through a number of stations and vote for different things they wanted to see and weigh in on their comments on different aspects of the community and the community's growth.
Is that updated yearly or will be updated after 7 years? How often is it updated?
About once every 7 years. Now, last time it was 10 plus, but this one hopefully will, 7 years from now, we'll be in the process of updating it once again.
And so irrigation setup, what will need to happen is properly installed and compliant backflow needs to be installed at owner's expense before irrigation meter is able to be set up. I think we explained it earlier about the charges for irrigation in an earlier question, but yeah, but there's just no base fee and there's no sewer charge on it.
Anybody that you like recommend to do for irrigation, or is it just?
So if someone is interested in getting an irrigation meter, they'd go to town hall and apply for service or apply for a new service on an irrigation account. And then they would put in a work request to Public Works and we would we would make the tap ourselves. And then recently the cross-connection control ordinance was adopted, so we would go over what that looks like moving forward, or now that that's in place, for what the backflow device would need to be, and then we'd set the meter once everything is properly installed.
There are a number of companies that install irrigation systems for residential use. We don't recommend.
Like off of that type of system?
Yeah, they would go from where we put the service, start there, put the piping and stuff through your yard and irrigation heads.
But the only problem is you only got about 45 feet of sideline pressure.
In some cases, you may need to put a booster pump on it.
Yeah. The water pressure that's provided, it'll barely fiddle out of 3 heads.
I see.
Is there a time period we will have to put this backflow under our existing irrigations?
It's one of those, the ordinance, was recently adopted, and as I think it's written in the ordinance that everyone has to become compliant, but we are working on establishing further guidelines for implementing that. And from what, don't quote me because I don't have any numbers, but it is not a major expense.
Yeah. A dual check valve for an irrigation system, probably $75 to $80 for the valve plus installation. They're
But
not terribly expensive.
And to clarify that we call it an irrigation meter, but what some people do is they just hook up to their hose bib, or they'll plumb the hose bib that's on their house, and it's more of an internal language, right? Or a sprinkler meter, but it's just defines it as no sewer use.
This is just a summary of the questions that I received from citizens. I think we covered most of these, but we'll go over them again. Town's plan on reducing the cost of the utility bill is that mainly that inventory assessment and fixing the infiltration in the systems. Can the town appoint a diverse citizen committee? Lou, you want to handle that one?
So specific to fighting the cost of water when it comes to a citizen committee, I don't know that there's anything that a citizen committee could do to combat the increase of cost, the increase of operations, but we do encourage, citizen input, and if a committee is necessary or a group of people ever want to get together with a specific department and go over things, that's where we get some of our best feedback, where we are able to then generate, viable ideas to try to find a solution or implement a solution that addresses a concern that a group of our residents is having. So a small example would be we've had a lot of people concerned with trash pickup, and so we've slowly started reaching out to maybe some of our neighborhood ambassadors. You know, there's always that one or two people in every neighborhood that kind of takes a lead role, and they've all expressed a little interest in getting together to deal with the trash pickup in a different way from our daily route collection. So that's one example, and you could take that and, you know, run with it wherever you see there might be a need. We're definitely interested in hearing what you've got to say.
Yeah, and if you have any, I'm happy to hear anyone's feedback, because anybody have a great idea, and I'm happy to hear anything.
Why not get rid of recycling?
Pardon?
Why not get rid of recycling?
It's a mandate.
In the state or what?
Is it a state requirement or?
It is a requirement in the state of North Carolina that every sanitation garbage collection system have a recycling component.
It was brought up last budget season as well to eliminate it.
So on the topic of trash pickup and the recycling, is there a, ordinance, because I know there's a noise ordinance in the town. I mean, I heard that there was when it first. Is there a time frame when they're not supposed to come? Because we hear them at 3 in the morning, we hear
Still?
them at 2 in the morning.
Yes, we
And
already.
I mean, my bedroom window is right there, and they are talking and loud and I mean, like they're having a party out there, and it's just, it's.
Yeah, that would be the recycling trucks. Our trash trucks Monday through Thursday start at 5, and Fridays they start at 7. So we'll reach out to Sammy, and that's one of those things. Is if it's a constant concern, just shoot us an email. And Sammy's real responsive with addressing things with his staff.
Randy, that is true, though, the garbage, not the garbage, the recycling truck is still coming through at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And we've got on before, but they're not listening.
How long is the contract with Rocky Mount for water and sewer? I think we covered that. We just re-signed the water in December of 2021. That lasts 40 years. For sewer, what did you say it was?
It's going to expire in 2025, so we'll be having an opportunity to look at the language in the sewer contract with the city of Rocky Mount in late 2024, early 2025.
Is the town approving new homes that will require the increase of water to Nashville? I think we covered that before. Yes, we are. Hopefully that will help stabilize the rates or whatnot. Are there any plans for growth of new homes and businesses in Nashville? Again, yes, same question, same answer. What are the long-term plans, if any, for supplying water to Nashville? We're always looking at options. I know the UNC School of Government is they're recommending regionalization of water commissions. So that's one thing to look into. Producing new wells, so we produce more than what we have to buy. The sewage treatment plant at the size of Nashville, it's not really an option for us. It's just not a feasible option for us. That covers that. Can the community have the option of digging wells to supply members of the community with supplemental water? Yeah.
And we'll be doing that. Hopefully have a fourth well online. Well, I guess it all depends if the site we have in mind can produce good quality water.
And how does the federal infrastructure grant play a role into the town of Nashville finding a way to supply its own water? We also covered that before. I think the current plan is to use about half of the 1.8 million that we received 868,000 in July, and then this coming July we'll receive the second half of that. And I believe the current plan is to use about half of that for water and sewer infrastructure projects. Any additional questions? No.
How often can you apply for permits?
I don't know that there's a limit, and I know we're applying, what's the deadline on that, April 30th? May 2nd?
Yeah, we can get up to 15 million on that, and the two projects that we've identified, obviously rehab that outfall line along Stony Creek. Therein, just having said that, is where some of the problem relies. It's 3.5 miles of 18-inch sewer line through a swamp, and since it was built 40 years ago, honestly, I don't know how they got in there to build it. There's no road alongside any of those manholes to actually get physical equipment to them. So, it's going to be an expensive project, we know that. The other projects we're going to be submitting, we have that part of the Regency subdivision, which doesn't have access to a sanitary sewer. They have individual septics. Those houses are 40 to 50 years old, and those septics are beginning to fail. Same on Essex Road in that subdivision. There are about 22 homes there that have a private septic system. It's because they don't have access, so we're going to be making application for that too. Hopefully, those will get funded all in the form of a grant. The state of North Carolina has received a tremendous amount of money through, the federal government's ARPA program, and it's chosen to really bulk up and help towns and communities with infrastructure projects. So next year, I think we'll be eligible to apply for another 15 million.
Randy, the outfall line, you said that was like 7 million.
That's the estimate at this point, 7.2.
And just to do the assessment was what, 300,000?
It was 150,000 for water and 150,000 for sewer. But when we get finished with that, we will know what parts of our water and sewer systems it makes sense to tackle first. As our engineer said, the low-hanging fruit, the easy to do things. On the sewer side of things, the fallout line we know is a big contributor to that I&I. We also know that the old brick manholes in the older part of town are also leaking. And those are fairly easy to rehab because we can get to those. And, they make a poly liner that a company comes in, they just power wash the inside, and then they spray on a liner in the inside and it seals it up. And that can be all done from street level, basically. It's easy to do and can be done quickly. And our engineer thinks that those two projects will help us cut our I&I by over half, just doing those things. So we also have with us here this evening actual water meters, and we have Lee and Taylor here this evening. If you're interested in knowing how to read your meter, they can give you a quick demonstration. All it does is require you open the lid and get your flashlight out, and if there's water going through your meter, there's an indicator on there. Once you put the flashlight on it, you can see if water is currently going through your water meter. If there's nobody at home and nothing's running, you got water going through it, as indicated by the leak locator on your meter, something's using water. And typically, typically it's the toilets. The flappers don't seat completely, and you'd be amazed at how much water can run through a toilet that's running for a month. It's unbelievable.
We had a woman that had 30,000 gallons pass through her toilet, and she kind of thought it was a toilet leak, and they'd turn it off sometimes and they couldn't sleep, so they'd turn it off and they'd turn it back on during the day. And I went out there and she said, "Oh, that must have been what that noise was." And it was 30,000 gallons that had passed through her toilet, but from the time it started leaking till we were made aware of it. So, and that's one of the key components of the meter registers that we use. Full disclosure, we've got about 500 that in town that we cannot retrieve a data log on, but we are working to replace them. But the other 2,500 can produce a data log. Like we said, a data log is a hour-for-hour history of 90 days of consumption. It tells us a lot of information. It reminds us of a lot of things that we may have forgot over the course of the month when we're questioning our bill. And Yep. Yep.
Is there a charge for that if you don't find anything?
There's not a charge either way.
Okay.
If you've got a question about your bill or anything, we can perform a data log. And then there was a question about accuracy or confidence in the reading. We use Neptune Meters because we're 100% confident that the reading we get is the reading that was justified and generated by water usage. The registers have a 10-year warranty on them themselves, and if you're aware of the conditions of a meter box, that's a pretty good warranty for a company to support and stand behind. It's a sealed unit. It's basically a computer with a lithium battery, and like I said, it at least for 10 years will store a revolving 90 days of hour-for-hour data consumption. So
This is the meter register, and it sits on top of this brass. This is the actual meter.
yes,
And there's a mechanism in here that spins when water goes through it. It's picked up by the reader and stored, and this is the device that gives us the ability to print out your usage in 1 hour increments over a 90-day period.
and one thing that has come up as the rates have increased and the bills have gone up, people will call and they'll say, well, we haven't seen the guys get out and read our meters. What's going on? How do you know that's correct? Well, the equipment that's in front up there, you'll see an antenna and the receiver. The town has invested heavily in that receiver, so it also has our complete confidence with the company that we use, which is Neptune. And so what we do is we drive about 20 to 25 miles an hour in the work truck with the antenna, and it starts reading. It can read anywhere from up to 1,000 feet or better. It is the receiving signal. It's a radio frequency. No. No.
It's wonderful technology.
It is, and
It's changed the amount of time we used to have guys that have to, physically
Right.
open, every time you write that reading down, there's an opportunity to write a number backwards.
Yep. Or you've seen if you've looked inside your meter box, you know the condition that it is. So, the dirt settles, the dirt falls, it sits in water, and we've went from manually reading, throughout the years, what used to take several days, meaning like 7 to 12. Now we can read the entire town in about 7 hours with 100% accuracy, but also 99% success radio reads. So there's always going to be some that will be cycling out of their life, and we go replace those as they fail. And then, of course, we're working to replace the list of updates that need to receive that register.
Lee, or while we have everybody here, I've received like many calls about trash cans not going back into yards. Can you tell them about the electric arms that are slipping the trash cans, or is that the recycling people now?
Probably both.
Because people are saying that the trash cans aren't being pulled back in the yards, but I remember when the men did, they pull it back in our yards. But with electric.
Well, the recycling trucks are automated, and those are typically the ones that are askew. Robert and Terrence have done a really good job of being diligent about pulling the green cans to the curb, the dark green cans, which are our cans. So,
And the blue ones are the recycling.
yeah, blue.
When do we start picking up the grass clippings again?
Yard waste is collected year round.
Okay, so it has to be just on the grass.
On the grass, a paper bag is preferred, or a paper container.
They won't suck it out of the open thing?
There's
Because
It depends, it depends on how big the container is.
The old green trash cans, the old ones, there was one left there, so we
Right.
used that to put, that's how, it's easier for me, because I'm getting surgery, so he can't even do it, so it's easier for me to wheel it that way. I'm just wondering, do I need to dump that onto the grass for them to pick it up?
That'd probably be,
They picked Larry's up the one time, and my little pile sat there for like 3 weeks.
right. If it's out and loose, I would say it's easier for the truck to get it. So it's probably a 2-foot diameter vacuum tube on there. So to have the finesse to drop that in the bucket from the truck.
Problem is, our curb line is only about a
Yeah, curb lines like this, and then it'll be on the sidewalk.
Right.
on the sidewalk.
Let me talk to Brent on the best way to handle that. He's the operator, so.
Because in the summer, he'll usually put the clippings in the paper, the bags.
Right.
And they'll go in the trash.
Well, yeah, so we talked about it a little bit today, but the one thing that we continually discuss here is the water bill or but it's the grass clippings in the trash. If they were out, we could collect them in the yard waste, dispose of them different to try to reduce the volume that we're taking to Rocky Mount for solid waste. Right? Rocky Mount's charging us $68 a ton, whereas we get a lot lesser fee for yard waste by the truckload because it's not weighed.
Is it okay just to leave them in the brown paper bags and put them out there?
Yes, that would be, if you have such a small curb line like that, that would be preferred. The guys will come, pick them up. If it's a paper bag, they'll take it, and that can go into the land. All right, I've got a contact at the school, so I will reach out. On the Green Street side, I'm assuming down there? Yeah, yes. Okay.
What's your question in the back?
How far will those meters be as far as like, every time I've ever opened up my gas, my oil, my water tank, I'm gonna get completely covered in dirt.
Right. So
So what's the, is there have any effect on the meter or anything?
It's like
Yeah.
this part.
I mean, mine is sometimes up to, half a foot deep
Right,
in dirt.
so the inside of a meter box throughout the years, of course, could change with the water washing in and whatnot, but the other part of our register replacement project is installing an external antenna. It's a 6-foot cable, and then we put that at the surface, and it's got a proper torque spec that the antenna is connected to, and when the antenna is above ground in the lid, regardless of what's going on with the register itself, that signal is transmitting. So, like I said, we were set up to read, and I think we've picked up what we could, but we've read 8% of the town's meters just sitting here from what we've got set up. As long as there's an external antenna, there's a very high chance that it's going to transmit. If it doesn't transmit, we know immediately because the data is in real time as
What
it's
happens
reading.
is utilities sends the import of the data to finance, we import it to our system, and then we notice if account 2657-0 didn't have a read, and we get a listen to them to go out and manually read
Yeah,
it.
so we'll go, anything that doesn't pick up, we go manually read, report it to finance so they can move forward with billing, and we replace the register and ensure a proper install. A cost of a new meter is $205 for a standard residential meter. Yep.
Does the customer incur the cost of that new meter?
So if there's a meter let's say there's a meter that's already in place and it's failed in one way or another, right? It's a mechanical device, but also a very fine piece of equipment. So if it fails for whatever reason, we go replace it at our expense.
Any other questions? If not, we have the meters up here. If you're interested in seeing a demonstration with a flashlight of how to read it and see the leak detector on it, Taylor is here to do that.
Everything satisfied?